And now continuing with the variables and data types. Next, as we saw to the left of the equal sign in the assignment, we have the name of a variable. And in Python, as in most programming languages, there are limitations as to what constitutes a legal and valid name for a variable. So in Python, variable names can only contain characters A through Z, both lower and uppercase. In addition, the numbers 0 through 9 and the underscore character. So even though it can contain numbers, it cannot start with a number. That would be illegal. Also, variable names, as is everything in Python, variable names are case sensitive. So Python in general is case sensitive. That means capitalization of letters really matters. Right, so here are some examples. So this is a valid variable name. It's called my underscore var, right? This is an invalid name, and it is invalid for two reasons. So it's 5 bad minus var. First of all, it starts with a number that is illegal. Second of all, it contains an illegal character dash or minus. Underscores are allowed. Minuses are not allowed. And it obviously is worth noting, like I said, Python is case sensitive. That means that lowercase my underscore var is absolutely not the same as my underscore var with M and V being capital. And here's if you want to take a look what would happen. Here I said my var lowercase gets 5, print my var gets 5, and then I say print this my with a M capital and V capital, and it tells me, sorry, buddy, the name, this variable, I have no idea what that is. You haven't defined it, right? So it is really case sensitive. Now, here are some conventions. Conventions, it's something you do not have to follow, but you really, really should. So it's a convention. I will not downgrade you if you do not follow it, but you really should, for both your benefit and everybody else's, because you will confuse yourself if you do not follow this convention. It is convention for a reason. So I said you don't have to follow this, but you really should. Okay, so all of the variable names, they should be all lowercase with the underscore character as word separator. Also, by convention, variables should be descriptive, and they should be sufficiently descriptive, here I say. Here are some examples. So here's bad description. A variable is called DIY, and it gets the decimal value 365.2422. Now, if you were evaluating somebody's code and you ran across this variable, you would look at it and have no idea what that could mean. A million different things, right? Well, okay, so this value is rather unique, and you probably know what that is, but anyway, it serves as a good example. Now, a good description would be you say days in year, right? Descriptive. Yeah, it shouldn't need even to be. It doesn't need to be long. It needs to be descriptive. So days in year is a lot better than DIY, and all of a sudden it's immediately clear what this is. Yeah, there are exactly 365.2422. If you're confused by this, this is why we have leap years, and that's why every X number of years, like every 100 years, we do not have leap years, but we will not get into that. Now, as I said here, variables should be all lowercase delimited with underscore. This kind of variable naming, it is in fact convention for the vast majority of programming languages. C, C++, Java, PHP, that is very much the convention. Not in Python. So for Python, it is unconventional. So this is how you should write it. You probably should stay away from that. And again, there are reasons, but we will not get too much into those details. A lot of new programmers commit this blunder. I think at this point you have seen several times where we use a single equal sign versus a double equal sign. Here's the difference. So here we're talking about a variable assignment, taking a value or something else and assigning it to a variable. The way assignment works is with a single equal sign, and the verb for that is not equal. The verb is get, and I think you have heard me already several times say x gets 5. Not x equals 5, x gets 5. You take the value 5 and you assign it to x. X gets 5. So here's an example. Days in year gets 365.2422. And now, as you probably already know by now, so in the assignment, the variable name goes to the left of the single equal sign, and the value or expression to be assigned to the right. So to the left is the variable, to the right is the expression. Now I know in math, you know in math, that x, so now I'm going to say equals because I'm talking about math. X equals 5 is the same as 5 equals x, right? Because you can flip the equation, you would get minus 5 equals minus x, then you can legally multiply the entire expression by -1, and you would get 5 equals x. You cannot do this in programming languages. So variable is on the left, value or expression is on the right, period. And don't worry about this word too much. I say here it returns nothing. We will cover return statements soon enough. But it returns nothing. It's simply an assignment. Now, double quotes, double equal signs, that is not assignment at all. It is test for equality. And here, for example, how you read this is days in year equals 365 point blah blah blah, and it's actually a question. So it's not a statement, it's a question. Do they equal or do they not equal? So it is not an assignment, and be very cautious. A lot of beginner programmers, when they mean to do one and they by accident do another, and then they wonder why the behavior of their program is behaving ridiculously, because, well, that's what you're instructing. Be very cautious about this. This in fact returns a Boolean. Boolean, true or false. So you're asking a question, are they equal? And you get an answer. True if they are, false if they aren't. So let's continue with variable assignment, and here we'll take a look at this very easy example. I will not do this interactively here, I just gave you a screenshot. You already saw how this works. Notice that, again, these lines are initiated by the number sign. That means they are comments and they will not be executed. These will be, and here's what you have. So let's say this is like a short little problem. Yesterday's ABC stock was priced at $5 per share. So we can say ABC underscore stock, again, make it descriptive and proper casings and separators, equals 5.00, or you could just say 5, same thing. Now, that was yesterday. Now today, the stock rose by $1.5. Now what you can do is you can make a statement, say now ABC gets so it will be 6.5, right? However, there are some tricks you can do. You don't have to keep redoing this assignment. You can simply update the variable, and here's how you do that. To the left of the equal sign, right, to the assignment sign, is your variable name, and to the right is the expression. What happens in the assignment? First, whatever is to the right of the equal sign, it's an expression. It gets evaluated first and then assigned or reassigned to the variable that you specify. So the program will evaluate this, right? And right now, before this assignment takes place, the ABC underscore stock has the value of 5.00. Now it's going to evaluate 5.1 plus 1.5. It will get the answer of 6.5, and it's going to assign it to ABC stock. So at this point, after the assignment is executed, this variable will be updated from $5 to $6.50. I hope that makes sense. Rewatch this small segment if this confused you. Now, next condition is we kind of forecast that tomorrow the stock's price is going to actually fall by $3.45. Once again, we don't have to reissue some of these commands. We can simply update the variable. So this is the same expression except with a new modifier. We expect it to fall by 3.5, correct? And first, this will be evaluated. So now this, at this point, is $6.50. We will subtract $3.45 and then assign it to the stock variable, right? And at the very end, we can print, so after all this computation, tomorrow's forecasted price already as a dollar amount will be, and here we have this expression. So the answer, of course, I mean, if you just do this in your head, is $3.05. Now, similarly to how we were casting floats and ints, right? This string cast right here, what you do is you take whatever numeric value is in that, whatever the numeric value you are passing, and you take the string representation from it so that you can concatenate, like it says here, you can glue together different parts of text and then print them all together. Now this plus sign, as it says here, it not only serves as a symbol for addition, but also a symbol for string concatenation. And Python is smart enough so that it knows if you are dealing with numbers, it will treat the plus sign as addition. And if you're dealing with strings here, it will treat it as concatenation. Now, the reason we are invoking this str for string conversion function is that if you don't, it's actually going to give you an error, because then Python will say, well, here is a string and this is a number. So Python will be confused as to what exactly you want it to do. Do you want it, because this is a number, do you want it to do arithmetic addition? But that doesn't make sense. You can't add arithmetically a string to a number, right? So that's why you're going to get an error. So that's why you have to, whenever you are concatenating numbers, integers or floats, to strings, you have to cast them as a string. And I believe you will have more exercises with that in your lab. In fact, you will explore this in much greater detail. One thing worth mentioning, reserved words. As I mentioned before, so right now we said what? Variables must have all characters between lower and upper A through Z, right? 0 through 9 and underscore. And we said if that, and it cannot start with a number. As long as that's observed, it's a legal name. Well, almost. There is this one exception. Python employs many, many reserved words that are also an exception to that. These words, they are specifically reserved by the Python interpreter to mean very specific things. Some of the examples are def, if, for, while, return, import, and etc. There are many of them. These are just examples. And if you name a variable or a function or something else with the same name, you are going to get an error because Python is going to misinterpret your intentions. For example, so that they cannot be used by the programmer. For example, if I name a variable import, right, it's a reserved word, as we said here, and we put it as a string, Python will tell me that's an invalid syntax. That's not how imports work. Even though import is perfectly legal with what we discussed previously, it is a reserved word and cannot be used as a variable name, right? So watch out for that. And even if you don't know that something is a reserved word, if you get something like this, you probably will know that you cannot use that variable name. Okay, finally, here are some operators that are comparative in nature. So comparative operators. And they are utilized when you want to compare, when you want to quantitatively compare variables and values. Most of these are pretty self-explanatory. So once again, the double equal sign, this is not an assignment. This is in fact equal to. This is pronounced equal to. Exclamation mark equal sign is not equal to. So these two are opposites. So here are some examples. One, you're asking a question, is 1 equal to 2? That's false. Is 1 not equal to 2? That is true. Strictly greater than, strictly less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. Here are some examples again. 1 is less than 2, 1 is not greater than 2, 2 is greater than or equal to 2, right? Because even though this doesn't work, but this does. So this is a non-strict greater than, including the equality. And 1, of course, is less than or equal to 2. Here's a basic example. So if we have x gets 4 and y gets x plus 1. So what's y at this point? 5, right? You're following this kind of chaining of variables. So x has 4, the value 4, and y has the value 5. So if we say, is x not equal to y? Is 4 not equal to 5? That is true. 4 is not equal to 5. is 4 less than or equal to 5. That is true. 4 is less than or equal to 5. Is 4 greater than 5? False. This is fairly straightforward. I hope you will not have too much trouble with this.